the aforementioned Gene Munster, managing partner at Deepwater Asset Management. Gene, great to have you with us. What is your initial take on this news?
I'm right lockstep with Guy on this one. I think that this is a rounding error. And you think about the Microsoft quarter, what's orbiting around it is several topics. We've got the CrowdStrike, the outage piece. That is something that will be in litigation probably for a long time. There's also cyber insurance. They could claim act of God. We're a long way away from resolution and probably a long way away from Microsoft tomorrow talking about any specifics around this. My guess is that they will say something like this is going to have a minimal impact on the business, and there is low probability that they're going to venture an actual number around it. So that's one topic that's orbiting the quarter. The other topics, of course, is related to AI, Azure, and how they're starting to monetize Copilot 360. And I think when you kind of put all this together, I think the CrowdStrike piece, the outage piece, I think it's probably fourth on the list in terms of what's on investors' mind going into tomorrow.
I do want to talk more about Microsoft in the quarter, Gene, but I'm just curious, as a tech investor, how do you look at CrowdStrike? I mean, it's supposedly best in class in its sector, but the damage to it is not just in the damage to recurring bookings, but also potentially in liabilities. Is it tempting to you?
Not yet. We had owned CrowdStrike up until about a month or two ago, and we didn't anticipate this happening. Our sell discipline was around more valuation. And so, but we know the company really well, and we have not stepped in. And I think in this case, you really need to see a flushing out. It typically takes a couple quarters. We'll see a step down. We'll probably see another step down again. And I think once you get 2 quarters of bad news in, once they report their December quarter, I think that's probably the point where you have a good sense about really what the impact of the issue has been on their business.
Gene, let's go back to Microsoft for a second. You know, amongst the many things that people will look at, what's going to stand out to you in terms of the one thing that will move the needle in terms of market reaction?
It's all going to come down to Azure growth. I mean, that truly is the pressure point. The bogey number here is above 30%. That number is important because Google Cloud grew their June quarter by 29%. Last quarter, Azure grew at 31%. The street's looking for just over 30% growth. As long as they can show that they're continuing to gain market share, I think Microsoft investors are going to generally view this as favorable. I think that the flip side is if that dips below 29%, there's a whole new narrative that starts to emerge. So I think that that's probably the biggest. And then, of course, there's the CapEx second. But to answer your question, Guy, it's all about Azure.
Hey, Gene, this is Julie. I was curious what you thought. There have been various reports of what is the AI software attach rate to, what the cloud Azure spend is. I've heard, for every $100, it would be $40 of AI spend. Do you have any sense of if we'll hear anything about that more concretely and what we should be thinking about in terms of battle testing that number?
So the Copilot piece this kind of falls in the category of what's been generally disappointing around software and AI is we just haven't seen the uptake. We saw a little bit of good news from ServiceNow last week, but in general, to put some numbers around that, they're about 360 is kind of the magic number. There are about 365 million Copilot users or Office 365 users, conveniently those numbers. And if you think about what that impact has been, they've said to slowly expect this over in the next several quarters and several years. But some quick perspective, if they add 1%, if they convert 1% of that base, it's about $360 a year, and that would add about 0.5% to their revenue. So the bottom line is this, AI is going to be throughout all Microsoft's products, but don't expect any sort of magical lift to happen tomorrow night. I think that they will continue to tamp down expectations relative to the impact of Copilot 360.
Sounds like you think the stock's going to go lower, Gene, or am I just imputing that on what you're saying?
Think,
because if they're going to tamp down expectations and it's only going to be 30% growth rate on Azure, I mean, 31% is the company's guidance. I don't see anything that's going to make the stock go up.
Well, I could be wrong, and we could see a better Azure number. I think probably that's something that could make the stock go up because that's the most important piece. Is at Deepwater we don't own Microsoft right now. I think that there are other companies to own. I just put one piece So we don't own it. We think there are better places to invest. And I think it comes back to a topic that we continue to discuss, which is to what degree do you believe in AI? If you think that AI is going to be transformative in line or exceed the hype that's out there, then Microsoft's going to continue to do well. But I still think that there are other companies, Google, Meta, Apple, that are going to do better.